Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a versatile all-arounder launched back in 2020. This is a fascinating sports chronograph from Breitling called the Endurance Pro, and it's part of their professional catalog. So the professional line often consists of super quartz and multifunction watches that are geared more towards function than fashion, although make no mistake, it's got equal measures of both. The watch is made of a material called Breitlight, which came out in 2016 on the Colt Sky Racer, and let's call it what it is. It's a very resilient type of Swiss-made plastic, and it is Swiss-made, not farmed out to another country. It's particularly light, resistant to scratches and scuffs, and thus well suited to its purpose. And the watch is 44 millimeters in diameter by 12.8 millimeters thick as I measure it from lug tip to lug tip, 52.6 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and normally I would just say no to a 44 millimeter case, but even though the watch is large and it looks the part, certainly, it's so easy to wear, being made mostly of sapphire and plastic and rubber, that it sits almost toy-like on the wrist. I would wear this. I would say that if your wrist is any smaller, you're going to have some serious lug overlap issues, but the actual feel and the weight of it makes it quite agreeable, even on a borderline wrist like mine. And it's not all that thick. It will fit underneath most cuffs. The strap is a lovely Breitling professional style strap with a sort of inverse Hershey bar molding on it. You can see you have these large, proud standing letters, and then they become stamped and downwardly embossed, which is I guess debossed, you could say. Combination of embossed and debossed. That's what's going on, and it looks like a Hershey bar. We have a very thick strap with hollows on the underside, and that helps to mitigate against stiffness by removing some material and also allowing the wrist to breathe. We have a buckle here, and I like that the buckle's made of the same material as the case. That lets you know that it's a fairly robust material, that they don't worry about molding small parts. There's a wonderful little sort of counterweight to it, almost like the fixture you'd find on the pockets of old school aviation suits. And of course, this is Breitling, so that's no coincidence. Now, the case is molded, or perhaps it is molded, autoclaved, and then cut, but you can see that regardless of how they achieve the sculpting, they do sculpt quite a bit. The case band is anything but simple integrated lug profiles, as there's a distinct kick or wing profile at 9 o'clock, and then you have a crown guard profile with pointy crown guards over at 3. There's a squared off end profile to the lugs with a little bit of a uphill slope, and then there's an expanding bevel along their sides. We have titanium hardware for the chronograph pushers and the crown. We have a yellow rubber shoulder for the crown and a yellow lacquered ring for the stop-start of the chronograph. And you can see there's quite a bit of theater involved in resetting this chronograph as well as starting it. The bezel is fascinating in that they continue to use Breitling's long-standing captive bezel design. So even though this is a plastic watch with its Breitlight case and bezel, the bezel is still fixed to the case using screws. That is called a captive bezel. It's something primarily used by Breitling and Zinn, and it makes it very, very difficult to accidentally snap the bezel off. Now, the bezel here is perhaps best suited to navigators, whether you be on foot, by sail underway at sea, or flying. You have a compass rose bezel. It glides wonderfully smooth. It's almost like a Norglide bearing. It feels like it's running on Teflon. There's no detent whatsoever. It's designed to be absolute silk. And of course, whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere, a combination of the hour hand and the bezel can be used to find north at any given time. Now, the dial is matte black, but it's got a lovely yellow chapter ring or flange outboard, and you can see this is actually a pulsation scale rather than a conventional tachymeter, so this can be used for gauging the pulse of a patient. The way this works is, we'll reset everything again. You start it up, and because it is a 30 pulsation scale, you are taking the pulse of your patient, and when you count the 30th pulse, that is when you stop the chronograph. And you can see if you started the chronograph, counted to 30, and stopped it on 30, that would be 160 beats per minute. Now, taking a quick look at the rest of the dial, it's a matte black with high contrast silver white on black numerals, and we actually have large applique tri-Arabic numerals that are cropped by the sub-registers. We have large chronograph registers for chronograph minutes and then fractions of a second, and although it's not a mechanical chronograph, it does read to 1/10 of a second, so it has quite a bit of theoretical precision in terms of how small an interval it can measure. We'll do a loom shot now. And it's a pretty well-loomed watch, although you do sacrifice the chronograph functions in the dark. Oddly, the large applique numerals are not luminescent. The hands, as well as the applique numerals, are all sort of frosted matte silver, so not a bright polish like the logo. They're matte, they glow rather than shine brightly. A couple things to note about this watch. Yes, it does have that spectacular foudroyant. It does not run full-time. After a few minutes of operation, it will stop foudroyant, just so you don't wear down the battery. But we do have a caliber 82 in here that has a hacking or stop seconds function. Part of the fun of that stop seconds function is that every time you activate stop seconds, as you pass through the quickset mode, you will cycle all of the registers. Now, we do have a quickset here, so you can rapidly cycle your date. And then we do have the hacking seconds function if you want to synchronize your sub-seconds to a reference time. Inside, we have that caliber 82, which is Breitling's terminology for an ETA Thermaline 251.232. That is a very high-grade Swiss quartz chronograph, and they go a little bit beyond standard here. All of this is 100 meters water resistant, so you can absolutely swim with it. But the caliber 82/Thermaline 251-232. It's got approximately a 3 to 4 year power reserve. It's accurate to 15 seconds a year, and this is a super quartz. It is a COSC quartz chronometer, but take note that a quartz chronometer only needs to be accurate to 25 seconds a year. This is accurate to 15, and thus a 40% improvement over the bare minimum for a quartz chronometer. Now, it's 27 joules, so there's a lot of traditional mechanical watchmaking in this movement, and it is designed to last the life of the watch and the life of the owner. It is not a pop and replace movement. It has a serial number, it is a certified chronometer, it has modular components, it can be serviced and repaired. The movement features thermocompensation, which means in very hot and very cold climates, when conventional quartz will tend to drift, this one is going to remain very precise. It has that thermocompensation capability. It also has a wonderful durability that's sort of endemic to quartz watches, as it's far less susceptible to shocks such as mountain biking, dirt biking, firearms, golf, batting. High-impact activities are less likely to kill one of these than a standard mechanical watch. And the movement is again, a very, very highly regarded luxury class ETA quartz chronograph. It even has fairly decent chronograph pusher feel. So reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this Breitling Endurance Pro.